Hi, I'm Courtney Lewis, the Music Director of the Jacksonville Symphony. Welcome to our new series of online introductions to our Masterworks concerts. The first piece on this program is John Adams' Fanfare, a short ride in a fast machine. Adams gave it that title because he said he wanted the audience to feel like they'd agreed to take a ride in a fast sports car and then regretted it later. You'll hear the music begin with a click from a wood block at the back of the orchestra. That click begins a kind of irrepressible rhythmical energy that doesn't give up until the very end of the piece. Adams wrote this piece at a time when he was writing music that's often called minimalist, and that means that you get one rhythmical idea which begins at the very start of the piece and keeps going the whole way through, but it shifts gradually, so you'll feel as you listen to this music like the ground is beginning to give way under your feet. It's a thrilling way to begin the season, and it ends with great joyful exuberance. After Adams, we move on to Haydn's 90th Symphony. Haydn wrote this in 1788. It was the middle of a wonderful collection of symphonies, numbers 88 to 92, that he wrote for Paris. This piece is much more humorous than the 92nd. It's full of jokes that take the audience by surprise. And in particular, there's a great one in the finale. He manages to catch the audience out not once, but twice. We're never sure where the end of the piece is. So when you come to the concert, I'll be curious to see if Haydn's still able to trick you. After Haydn, we move to Gustav Holst's masterpiece, The Planets. Holst was very interested in astrology, and each of the 7 movements is a kind of musical portrait of one of the planets, or even the kinds of characteristics that people have if they're born under the star sign of that particular planet. So for example, the first movement, Mars, is the bringer of war. This is music that's in 5/4. That means there are 5 beats in a bar instead of the usual 4. And it sounds very odd and off-putting because of that, as if somebody's trying to march with a third leg. At the very beginning of the movement, you'll hear the strings playing with a strange effect called con legno, which means with the wood. That means that they turn their bow backwards and hit the wooden part against the string. And this creates a rattling sound that sounds like an artillery of gunmen firing. The second planet is Venus, the bringer of peace. After all the clattering noise of Mars, this is a movement that's much more peaceful. There are gently pulsating chords in the strings, beautiful melodies in the woodwinds, and you'll hear an especially beautiful solo by our concertmaster. Next of all is Mercury, the winged messenger. And this is like a scherzo. It's like a Beethoven scherzo. Everything is very fast and light. You'll hear lots of flying scales in the woodwinds and the strings. And it's as if we're watching the thought processes of a genius and can't quite follow what he's thinking. After Mercury comes Jupiter, the bringer of jollity. This is very hearty, healthy, noble, and majestic music. It's also a piece that contains one of the most famous melodies in The Planets. You'll recognize it as soon as you hear it. It's especially famous because it's been used many times as a hymn tune with the words, "I vow to thee my country," and it feels very patriotic and nostalgic, especially if you're British. Then comes Saturn, the bringer of old age. This music begins like the ticking of a clock, as if we're watching somebody grow older or listening to their knees gradually creak to the floor. And a few times the music is interrupted with a very alarmed kind of sound, bells ringing at the back of the orchestra, clanging strings. And it's as if you're watching somebody who's forgotten his train of thought in the middle of a sentence. The next planet is Uranus, the magician. It's as if we're suddenly seeing a bumbling wizard appear on stage. You'll hear the music bouncing along in a very jolly way, but there's also something slightly sinister about it. And at the end of the movement, it disappears in a puff of smoke, as if the wizard has left us abruptly. The last planet is Neptune, the mystic. Holst was fascinated by astrology as a way out of the ordinariness of everyday life, or what he saw as the limitations of traditional religion. And this movement achieves a kind of nirvana state, a kind of relaxed, timeless feeling that Holst was in search of through astrology. It features a wonderful effect from the back of the concert hall. We have a women's chorus who sing "ah" with no words, and they sing one phrase over and over again, getting softer and softer, as if the piece of music is disappearing into eternity in the blank of the solar system, and we gradually lose sight of it. It's also a musical effect which has been robbed and pillaged by many film composers over the year. Mars is the same. You'll recognize a lot of the sounds from films many, many times. And in this last movement, it's as if we're listening to a 1950s sci-fi thriller where aliens are invading planet Earth. So these three pieces make a really exciting start to our 15-16 season. I hope that you'll join me at Jacobi Hall. We're going to have a wonderful evening, red carpet. We're encouraging you to dress to impress.